favourite thing about teaching reception is that you come in every day and you don't know what to expect. We follow the children's learning, so we don't have set topics, but we really go with the children's interests and we let them lead their learning. And by doing that, you get children that are 100% engaged, really committed to what they're doing, and it's just a joy to see them grow over the year. We're going to be looking at sharing today. And I have been working really hard on my sharing, and I've given you each a bag, and what I want you to do is pour what's in the bag out and then put the bag on the floor. Today I'm going to have a small group of 6 children. They're going to be focusing on sharing, with the emphasis on sharing means equal amounts. Most of them will be working within the 40 to 60 age band of Development Matters, and I'm hoping to get lots of good vocabulary from them, lots of really rich maths language as well. Have I done good sharing?
No.
No, why not?
Because we have fewer and more.
Who's got fewer and more? I'm hoping that the children will learn all about sharing, the importance of sharing being equal amounts, the importance of using one-to-one correlation when counting numbers to objects, and also potentially what happens when we've got an unequal amount too.
60, 70, 80.
18, and does that help us?
No.
Okay, so we know we've got 18. How could I share them out?
You could do
Joseph.
pass them around, say 1, 1.
Oh, go on then, Joseph. Do you want to start us off? I'm looking to challenge my children by firstly giving them an unequal amount to share and exploring their response to that. Moving on from that, if they've really understood it, I'll be looking to begin to introduce what we do when we halve something and giving them the opportunity to make half of an object and split it that way. I want you to share those between the 3 of you. Okay, so empty them out and share them between the 3 of you.
I'm going to do them. Now let's share.
How many does Joseph have?
1.
And how many does Layla have?
5.
5, so that's equal, isn't it? How many did you start with altogether? One misconception that I'm really looking for is when children have a set of objects in front of them, they need to make sure that they're counting with one-to-one number-to-object correspondence and they're not counting across as they go. So they're getting the right amount to begin with and then using that maths language to split, to share equally and to get the right answer. 14, are you sure? I want your group to count them again.
Okay, let's put them in there. No. I heard you count to 15 actually. 1, 2, 3.
We're going to see a number of resources with mainly using food because I find children really, they relate to food. It's something they have in their everyday lives. So we're going to have some different sweets, we're going to have some objects from our maths area, and we're going to have some fruit as well from our own snack shack. So an opportunity for them to use their learning in provision as well. Okay, now my last problem then. I have 2 plates and I have some apples. Okay, right, I'm going to share my apples equally. Okay, so should I put it here or here? Okay, and this one?
There.
Okay, and this one?
There.
What am I going to do with this one?
You.
I could eat it, but I'm not sharing it between 3 people, am I? I'm only sharing it between 2. What could I do with this one?
Slice it.
Slice it where?
To each other. Slice it into 4 pieces.
Into 4 pieces? How many people am I splitting it between?
2.
2. I'm sharing it between 2, so I only need to slice it into 2 pieces, don't I? Now this is going to be quite tricky, and it may not be perfect, but oh, there we go.
My mum can do it easily.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
So what shall I do with them now?
That one.
Okay, so I had 5. How much does each person get?
3.
Do they get 3 though?
No.
That's not a whole apple, is it? So 1, 2, and
3.
what do we call half? So each gets 2.5. So if I was sharing 5 equally between 2, they get 1, 2.5 each.
Sharing's a really interesting concept because actually when children come to us, their understanding of sharing is really tied up in their everyday language. So for example, children will come into the early years having been told to share nicely or share at home. And often this doesn't mean sharing in a mathematical context of taking a number of objects and dividing them between a number of people there. It often means give someone else the thing you're playing with, or let someone else join your game. And because it's so tied up in language, I thought it was a really interesting one to explore with the video. So in the video you saw lots of adult-led activities, which are a really great way of introducing a new concept to children. But what is important to remember is that sharing doesn't just happen through adult-led activities. The early years reception classroom has a wealth of opportunities for children to share toys and resources with each other. So when children are beginning to share mathematically, there are a number of skills that come into play. The first is being able to accurately count how many objects there are to begin with, and to understand that these objects need to be shared amongst however many are there. This draws then on that understanding of sameness and difference and equalness as well, so that everybody has an equal or a fair share. There are some resources which beg to be shared. For example, card games are a great way when you deal out and ensure that you have the same, because the game will not work if one has more cards than another. So it's another way of reinforcing this vocabulary. When children realise that their set is more than another's, or they're on the receiving end of a set which has fewer than a friend, it then builds on some of that precursors to sharing work. So currently we have unequal sets where one has more and one has fewer, but if we want our sets to be equal, how can we share those? And actually this then leads to early division and sharing work. So for example, children when they're starting to share might say, I have 4 things and I'm sharing them with myself and another person. So there are 2 things for me and 2 things for them. So children are starting to understand that 4 is constructed from 2 sets of 2. The other thing they'll need to do is be able to count once they have finished the sharing to see how many each person has overall. One area that children might find difficult is that they don't necessarily involve themselves in the sharing. So it comes back to again that understanding of language, that if you're being asked to share your toys with someone, often what you're doing is giving away your toy to somebody else. But if you're sharing between you and a partner, you need to include yourself in the dividing out of objects as well. And children can sometimes find that a little tricky, something that might need to be modelled by practitioners. So sharing is something that naturally happens in early years classrooms. Children will often say they need to share it with me. And that's an ideal opportunity for practitioners to discuss what sharing means. If you were to have just enough construction bricks, not too many, not too few, or just enough small world for children to play with, they would need to share because they'd have to work together in order to play the game. If you increase the number of children who are playing a game or decrease the number of objects available, you would then provide opportunities even more for that sharing to happen so that everyone can be involved in the play together. Snack is another excellent time to bring sharing in. So thinking about, have we enough for everybody? How many will everyone have? So if you can either share quantities, so with small snacks, small raisins or small fruits, where people might have more than one piece. So we have a group at a bowl of tomatoes and we're going to share between however many we've got there. So people might have 2 or 3 each when the final share has happened. Or sharing larger objects, as we saw with Hayley, introducing the idea of a half of something by cutting apples or cakes into pieces so that people can share a larger object divided into fractions. So as children are negotiating and sharing things with each other, practitioners might want to ask questions like, how many are there? Is there a way to divide this between you? How many might you have each? And as children are starting to share the things between, say, what are you doing? How are you counting? How many do you have? How many does your friend have? Is that the same? Does one have more? Does one have less? And being able to compare and work with children so that they understand the idea that sharing is dividing a set number of objects between a set number of sets.